And I appreciate being invited to this, being given the chance to present, even though economics is not part of the STEM discipline. So I'm giving you a slightly different perspective, but the methods are quite similar. So this is looking at the differences in pensions between men and women in China. Poverty rates among women, especially older women, are much higher than men in almost all countries I've seen. And in developing countries, older people are especially vulnerable, given that there is very little accumulated assets, so the gender gap is more prominent. And as the population is aging across the globe, there will be more people falling into the category of older people. Thus, the gender difference in retirement income or in pension will be more important in the future. And Chinese elderly are especially disadvantaged in terms of economic well-being, partly because of the rapid economic growth in the past 3 decades that benefited the younger generations more than the older people. And in the recent decade, the government has strengthened social security, but elderly poverty, especially among women, remains a serious problem. So these graphs are from data I will introduce a little later. The poverty rates among women is significantly higher than among men in both rural and urban areas. These are people aged 60 and older. So the goals of this paper are two. First is to measure the gender gap in public pensions, and the second is to try to provide a dissection, reasons behind the gender gaps. And the data is from Charles. This is China Health and Retirement Longitudinal Study. It's a nationally representative sample, people aged 45 and older. The counterpart in Korea is called CLOSA, and the HRS or ELSA share are some of the similar surveys in other countries. And this is a nationally representative sample. These are the counties represented in the data. It covers over 10,000 households, almost 18,000 individuals. And in this paper, we use the second wave, 2013, as well as the life history survey on the same respondents in 2014. So the sample that I use are people aged 60 and older. So it's a little over 8,000 people. I'm not going to. So this is the distribution of public provided pension incomes, and the blue bars are male, and the red ones are females. You can see of all of the higher pensions, you see more blues than red, and in the lower or no pension, there are more red than blue. So there's a difference between men and women. Men have more pension. These are the aggregate numbers. If we look at monthly pension, the unit is yuan. $1 is about 6 yuan. So these are men and women. Women have much less pension, and that we're going to disaggregate into participation or coverage. Women are less likely to be included, less likely to have any pension. And given that they have pension, they have less pension incomes. And the differences exist across urban and rural areas. So the first decomposition we're doing is to disaggregate into coverage, and given coverage, the income difference. So these are the results. Overall, that is including both urban and rural areas, we see that 86% of the gender difference in pensions due to difference in pension benefits. A small proportion is due to coverage in any pension, and that is driven mostly by rural areas. But in urban, among urban residents, a significant share of the gap is due to difference in participation, in having any pension at all. So next, we're looking at sources of benefits, because the benefit gap, as we've seen earlier, accounts for most of the pension differences. And to understand that, let me give you a little background information. China's pension programs are highly segmented. There are good pensions, we call good pensions, government employee pensions, or the firm pensions, and then the urban non-employees or all rural residents. These are more recent and much less generous pensions. If you look at the pension incomes, these good pensions are giving much higher pension incomes than the rest of the other pensions. And you can see large differences in the coverage rates between men and women in these good pensions. And also within the good pensions, you see the difference in pension incomes. So So here is within the good pensions, the blue, men have higher pension incomes. So the next, we're answering why we're decomposing the benefits gap into probability having a good pension, then given having good pension, the benefits gap, and also bad pension. So that's the formula, and the result is most of the difference in benefits gap is due to the difference in being covered in a good pension, and that is driven by mostly rural. But within urban, the story is different. The story is that within good pension programs, gender difference explains 2/3 of the gap. So next, I'm skipping that. Next, we're asking why are women less likely to receive the good pensions, and given that a person has good pension, why are there gender differences in the benefits? So to do that, so we focus on a few factors. The most important is years of formal employment, and these are among those having any pension, men and women differences. You can see that years of formal employment means the employment covered in pension programs, there is a significant gap. And this is a sample of people having good pension, and whether we're looking at the benefit differences. And there we also see a difference in years of formal employment. And here, because the age, the income around retirement age explains how much you get after retirement. So we're looking at the wage at age 45. We use 45 because women retire at age 50 actually, and many retire before 50. So age 45 is the one, the income we can observe for most people. So, and here is a general picture of wage gap given employment. This comes from our life history survey, where we ask people their employment wage history in the past. You can see that women start having lower wages, but as they age, the gap actually widens. But we're focusing on this gap. So we want to explain the pension coverage and the benefit gaps. We run regressions and do what we call Oaxaca decomposition. That is, we want to see how much of the differences in Y variables, in the dependent variables, can be explained by differences in the right-hand side variables. And so this is a regression of whether or not you have a good pension. And the explanatory variables are these, and we can see that formal employment is quite important. we have provincial dummies here. And so we're looking at male-female differences. And then the results show that we can explain the dependent variables explain almost all of the differences in participation, in the participation gender gap. And of that, most explained by formal employment years. The rest is by rural versus urban hukou, and so on. And next, we're looking at the benefits given that you're in this formal sector pension programs, how much you receive in employment income. And so the dependent variable is pension benefits. And then we use similar explanatory variables, including the wage at age 45. And the decomposition result shows that we actually explain less than half of the difference in benefits. And the years of formal employment explains a quarter of this gap, and the wage at 45 explains 20%. So to conclude, women's public pension income is 47% of that of men, is a little less than half of what men receive. And 84% of that comes from difference in benefits given participation. And then among the recipients, the benefit level is about half of men, even given participation. And most of that is due to coverage in good pension programs. And then when receiving public pension, women are 50% less likely to receive good pension, and that is explainable by employment years in the formal sector. And then when receiving public pensions, women are paid 18% less, and the largest explanatory factor is, again, years of formal employment. So overall, years of formal employment explains 44% of the total gender gap in pension benefits. And the channels are mostly through participation in good pensions. And the next one is participation in any pension. Then the question is, what explains the difference in formal sector employment? And that is most likely linked to care responsibilities by women, and due to the limitations, we're not yet. That's the future research. How does care responsibility contribute to the shortened years of formal employment and lower wage among women? And that's the